The rope was already rough against Elias Drake's throat when the fog on Execution Hill parted like theater curtains. Dawn bled across the sky in violent slashes of crimson, painting the hemp noose the color of fresh meat. He could feel every fiber biting, could count every heartbeat in the creak of the gallows trapdoor beneath his boots. 100 townspeople held their breath as one, waiting for the sun to crest the ridge so the hangman could finally drop him. Then hoofbeats, sharp, urgent, impossible. They exploded from the mist like cannon fire made flesh. A single rider, cloak snapping, tore up the muddy path at a speed that should have killed horse and man alike. Iron shoes sparked against flint as the animal skidded to a halt in front of the scaffold. The rider vaulted down before the dust settled, boots splashing red mud across the sheriff's polished spurs. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some fell to their knees, because every soul on that hill recognized the gold-chased sword, the silver gorget, the face beneath the dripping hat brim, Governor Jonathan Gray. The same Jonathan Gray who had once, 12 years ago, been a half-starved stowaway Elias found hiding in the bilge of the sea serpent. Governor Gray didn't waste breath on ceremony. He drew his saber in one clean arc and sliced the noose from Elias's neck with a sound like a whip crack. The rope hissed to the boards, still coiling like a dying snake. Elias staggered forward, wrists bound, staring at the man who had signed his death warrant only to ride through hell to stop it. For 3 heartbeats, time simply stopped. Then Gray leaned close enough that only Elias could hear the words that would change everything. The wine you poured for me in Tortuga just bought you another sunrise. But the men who want us both dead are already reloading. The crowd erupted. Some shouted treason. Others shouted miracle. The sheriff's hand twitched toward his pistol, but Gray's glare pinned him like a bayonet. In that single, charged second, 2 destinies collided. Pirate and governor, thief and savior. On a scaffold slick with morning dew and fresh fear. And somewhere in the chaos, a distant rifle bolt snapped shut with metallic finality. Cut to black. Now, before we see who pulls that trigger, let's rewind, because every legend has a first sip. Back to a smoke-choked tavern on the edge of the Spanish Main, where the air tasted of rum, sweat, and gunpowder. Where Elias Drake, wanted in 3 empires, sat alone at a scarred table, guarding the last bottle of wine aboard his ship. Outside, a storm hammered the shutters like war drums. Inside, the only sound was the slow drip of rainwater through the thatch onto a single tin cup. Then the door creaked open. A ragged stranger stumbled through, barefoot, coat torn to ribbons, face hollowed by hunger and something deeper. Blood leaked from a cut above his eye. The floorboards drank it greedily. Every head in the room turned, then turned away. Pirates don't waste mercy on the dying. But Elias did. He pushed the bottle across the table with one calloused finger. No words, just the quiet invitation of shared pain. The stranger collapsed onto the bench, hands shaking so hard the cup rattled against the wood. When the wine touched his lips, he closed his eyes like a man tasting grace for the first time in years. One swallow, then another, then voice raw as salt. Name's Gray. If I live till morning, I'll owe you more than this bottle's worth. Elias laughed. Low, cynical, the sound of a man who'd learned promises rot faster than fruit. Wine's cheap, blood's cheaper. Drink up. But even cheap wine can ferment into destiny. Outside, thunder rolled like distant broadsides. Inside, the stranger's eyes, gray as storm clouds, met Elias's across the candle flame. 2 men, 1 cup, and a debt neither yet understood. The storm would pass. The bottle would empty. And before sunrise, one of them would steal from the other, setting this entire impossible morning in motion. So ask yourself, if you were Elias, would you have shared that wine? Or would you have kept the bottle, the table, the whole damn tavern to yourself? Comment below, because the answer you choose might decide whether the next sunrise belongs to the pirate or the hangman. The tavern door hadn't even finished swinging shut before Elias knew he'd been played. Where Gray had sat moments ago, a single gold coin spun on its edge, mocking, final, damning. The strongbox behind the bar gaped open like a fresh wound, Its iron lock snapped clean. Empty. Every last escudo gone. The only thing left behind was the stranger's tin cup, still wet with the wine Elias had poured from his own last bottle. The cup now held a scrap of parchment folded into the shape of a noose. In the stunned hush, Elias heard the future creak into motion. He lunged for the door, boots skidding on sawdust and spilled rum. Outside, the storm had swallowed Tortuga whole, rain slashing sideways, palm fronds thrashing like drowning arms. Lightning stitched the sky, and in its white flash he caught the briefest silhouette. Gray on a stolen horse, cloak flapping like a black sail as he vanished into the roar of night. Elias's roar was swallowed by thunder. 3 years later, the same roar lived in his chest every dawn he woke still breathing. Cut to present. Dawn on the gallows again. The governor's sword still glinted inches from Elias's throat. But the memory of that stolen coin burned hotter than hemp. Gray's voice, low and urgent, snapped him back. Listen, the men who paid for your hanging are the same ones who paid me to rob you. They want both of us silenced. If we die here, their secret dies with us. Elias tasted blood. Whether from rope burn or fury, he couldn't tell. You expect gratitude? You stole my crew's wages. Left us broke in a port full of sharks. Gray's eyes flicked to the crowd, then to the ridge beyond where a rifle barrel glinted. Those wages bought me a governorship and the leverage to buy you back. But only if we move before that sniper finishes what the noose started. The math hit Elias like grapeshot. Gray hadn't betrayed him for gold. He'd bartered their friendship for a throne, then used that throne to rewrite destiny. The coin wasn't theft, it was a down payment on a pardon. Now the governor was betting everything on a single sword stroke and a half-truth. Elias's wrists throbbed where the rope had cut. He scanned the faces in the crowd. The sheriff sweating under his collar. A merchant counting coins too fast. A woman clutching a child whose eyes were wide with hunger. Eyes that looked exactly like Elias's cabin boy the night Gray vanished. Every soul here had been touched by the same corruption Gray now claimed to fight. The wind shifted. A metallic click echoed from the ridge, primer snapping into place. Gray's knuckles whitened on the saber. Choose, Elias. Die a pirate, or live long enough to become the monster that saves them all. Behind them, the trapdoor groaned. The hangman's hand hovered over the lever. In that heartbeat, Tortuga stormed back. The taste of stolen wine, the sting of salt spray, the weight of every promise broken in the dark. Elias remembered Gray's whisper the night they shared the bottle. A man can't outrun his sins, but he can outspend them. Now the bill had come due. Elias met Gray's stare. If you're lying, I'll kill you myself. Gray's grin was razor thin. Get in line. The rifle cracked. A splinter of wood exploded from the gallows post inches from Elias's ear. Screams rippled through the crowd as the sheriff drew his pistol. But Gray was already moving, blade flashing to sever the last rope binding Elias's wrists. Together they dove from the platform as another shot tore through the space where Elias's head had been. They hit the mud hard. Gray's cloak tangled around them both. Somewhere above, the sniper cursed and reloaded. The crowd surged, some fleeing, some pressing closer, as if drawn to the violence they'd come to witness. Elias rolled to his feet, fists clenched. But Gray was already pulling him toward the alley between the gallows and the blacksmith's forge. This way. The men who hired that shooter own the docks. If we reach the sea serpent, we flip the board. Every step pounded with a single question. Trust the thief who became king, or cut him down and take the throne for himself. Lightning flashed again. In its glare, Elias saw the coin, still spinning in his mind, deciding not their past, but their next sunrise. And as they ran, the storm answered with cannon thunder that hadn't yet been fired. The coin never stopped spinning. 12 years earlier, in the belly of the sea serpent, it danced across the scarred table like a heartbeat made of gold. Elias watched it whirl between them, candlelight streaking across its surface, carving the governor's profile into a grinning skull. Outside, the storm hammered the hull. Inside, Gray's whisper cut through thunder. One sip, Captain. Share it, and tomorrow you own the ocean. Elias lifted the cracked bottle. Cheap Spanish red, vinegar to most tongues. Yet the smell of it carried memories of home. His mother's laughter, the creak of a dock he'd never see again. He poured until the cup brimmed. Wine sloshed over the rim, staining the map spread beneath like fresh blood marking the route to Tortuga. Gray drank. Elias watched the stranger's throat work, watched the coin slow, wobble, and finally fall. Heads up, governor's face mocking. A deal sealed in wine and fate. Cut to dawn. The same coin, now cold in Gray's palm as he slipped it into the strongbox's empty mouth. The lock clicked shut with the finality of a coffin lid. Elias, passed out drunk on the table, never saw the parchment tucked beneath the false bottom. Orders from a shadow council promising a governorship for the pirate who delivered Elias Drake's crew to the gallows. Thunder cracked. The sea serpent rocked hard. Gray vanished into the storm, leaving only the tin cup and the echo of his promise. Present. Rope burns slicing Elias's wrists. He tastes that same wine again, metallic and sour, as if betrayal aged like vinegar in his veins. Governor Gray's saber still glints between them, reflecting the noose that moments ago had been a collar. One sip bought you a throne, Elias growls. What's one sword stroke worth now? Gray's eyes flick to the ridge. The sniper's rifle glints again. Sunlight off a predator's tooth. It's worth a future where both of us breathe. But only if you trust the man who stole from you. Trust. The word tastes like gunpowder. Flashback. 3 nights later, Tortuga Tavern, the coin spinning again, this time on the bar top. Elias, now sober, now broke, now hunted, watches it blur. Each revolution is a heartbeat he doesn't have left. The bartender slides a fresh bottle across, but Elias pushes it away. He's chasing ghosts now, chasing the man who vanished with his fortune and his faith. A whisper at his elbow. Gray's headed north. Governor's mansion under construction. Word is he's the architect. Elias pockets the coin. The storm inside him grows louder than any hurricane. Present. Trapdoor groaning beneath his boots. He hears that same whisper carried on the wind. The coin is no longer metal. It's memory, momentum. A promise and a curse fused into one perfect circle. Gray's voice drops to a hiss. The men on that ridge, they paid me with your bounty, but I paid them back with a lie. Said I'd deliver your corpse. Instead, I'm delivering your life. Question is, do you want it? Elias's gaze cuts to the crowd. He sees the merchant who once financed his raids, now wringing silk handkerchiefs. Sees the sheriff who pocketed Gray's gold, now sweating bullets. Sees the child clutching her mother's skirt, eyes wide, the same eyes that once watched a pirate share wine with a starving stranger. The coin flips again in his mind, faster now, blurring past and future into one razor edge. Flashback. The night Gray left, Elias found the parchment tucked beneath the cup. Orders inked in blood-red wax. Deliver Drake's crew. Earn Crown's favor. But scrawled beneath in Gray's own hand, if I fail, drink to my memory. If I succeed, drink to yours. Wine and betrayal sealed with the same cork. Present. Gray's saber slicing the last rope. Elias feels the parchment's ghost brush his skin. Feels the coin's weight in a pocket that's been empty for 12 years. The noose drops, but the choice tightens. Gray leans in, breath hot against Elias's ear. The wine you poured? It wasn't wine. Was the map, hidden in the bottle's wax seal. I drank the wine, kept the map, built the mansion, built the gallows, built this moment. Lightning forks above. For one heartbeat, the coin is suspended in midair, spinning between timelines, reflecting every face that's ever wanted Elias dead, and every hand that's ever offered him salvation. Then the rifle cracks. The coin falls. Heads or tails? The answer is lost in the thunder as Gray drags Elias off the platform. Both men crashing into the mud as the bullet meant for the pirate sings past the governor's skull and buries itself in the scaffold post. Smoke coils. The crowd scatters. The storm arrives. And somewhere in the chaos, the coin, real or imagined, comes to rest. Governors face up. A future written in wine, blood, and betrayal. But the next sunrise? That's still spinning. The rifle shot cracked the dawn like a starting pistol for Judgment Day. Elias hit the mud shoulder first, Gray on top of him, the saber still locked between their bodies like a shared heartbeat. Splinters from the gallows post rained down, stinging Elias's cheek. 1 inch left and the bullet would have painted the governor's brains across the scaffold. Smoke curled from the ridge, a second's worth of cover before the sniper worked the bolt. Choice: run and maybe live or rise and maybe die. Gray's breath was ragged against Elias's ear. One more shot. Decide. Elias tasted iron. Blood from the rope burn, or from the memory of every betrayal he'd swallowed since Tortuga. He rolled, shoving Gray sideways as another bullet whined past, close enough to part the governor's hair. The crowd was a screaming blur, bodies scattering like startled gulls. The sheriff's pistol cleared leather, but hesitated. Governor Gray was still a governor, and no one wanted to be the man who killed both pirate and pardon in the same breath. Above them, the trapdoor creaked open on empty air. Elias's hands found Gray's collar. Your horse where? Stables. 50 yards. Guarded. 50 yards of open ground, 2 rifles, 1 sheriff, and a town that wanted them both dead. Elias's laugh was wild, feral. Hell of a morning. They moved as one, low and fast, Gray's saber flashing to parry a third shot. The blade rang like a bell, the bullet ricocheting off steel and burying itself in the dirt between Elias's boots. Sparks danced. The stables loomed ahead, but between them and safety stood the sheriff's deputies. 6 men with muskets leveled, faces pale but determined. Gray skidded to a halt, saber raised. Stand down. Governor's orders. The lead deputy's voice cracked. Orders came from the ridge, sir. Not from you. Elias saw it then. The glint of silver on the deputy's wrist, coin-shaped, governor's profile. Bribery paid in blood. His own bounty, flipped to buy his death. Choice: trust the man who robbed him or carve a path through the men who sold him. The second rifle fired. This time the bullet punched through the sheriff's hat, ripping it from his head and sending it spinning into the mud. The sheriff dropped, screaming, clutching his scalp. Chaos erupted. Deputies turning, muskets swinging toward the ridge, the crowd stampeding toward the docks. Elias seized the moment. He lunged, shoulder ramming the nearest deputy, snatching the fallen musket before it hit dirt. Bayonet fixed, he spun, blade catching sunlight like a promise. Gray mirrored the move, saber flashing. 2 blades, 2 desperate men, 1 impossible corridor of steel and smoke. They ran. Muskets cracked behind them, bullets whining past ears. Elias felt one tug at his sleeve, felt the burn of close death. The stables loomed closer, 30 yards, 20. A horse screamed inside, scenting blood on the wind. Gray's horse, black as midnight, eyes wild, reared as they burst through the doors. Elias vaulted into the saddle, Gray swinging up behind him, saber still dripping rain and fear. The stable boy dove aside as Elias kicked the horse into motion, hooves thundering over cobblestones. Behind them, the sniper's third shot punched through the stable wall, splintering wood inches from Gray's spine. Out into the street. The town was a battlefield now. Deputies forming ranks, townsfolk screaming, rifles cracking from rooftops. Elias leaned low over the horse's neck, Gray's arm locked around his waist, saber raised to parry another bullet. The black horse cleared a wagon, landed hard, hoofs skidding in mud. Choice: ride for the harbor and steal a ship, or ride for the ridge and end the sniper. Gray's voice was ragged. Ships faster. Ridges final. Elias's grin was savage. Final's what we're here for. They veered left, hoofs pounding toward the ridge. Behind them, musket fire stitched the air. A bullet grazed the horse's flank, drawing a scream and a burst of speed. The ridge rose. Before them, steep, rocky, crowned with a single figure silhouetted against the bleeding sky. The sniper. 1 man. 1 rifle. 1 more choice. Elias reined hard at the base of the ridge, horse snorting, sides heaving. Gray slid from the saddle, saber flashing. Up there. Ends now. Elias stared up at the silhouette. The rifle glinted again. Slower this time, deliberate. And choice. Climb and maybe die, or ride and maybe live. Thunder rolled. The rifle cracked. And the world narrowed to the split second between the sound and the impact, between salvation and oblivion. The bullet never came. Instead, the silhouette staggered, clutching its chest. Hit from behind by a second shot, fired from somewhere unseen. The sniper toppled, rolling down the rocky slope in a tangle of limbs and broken rifle. Elias and Gray stood frozen, breath ragged, staring at the body that wasn't theirs. From the ridge's far side, a new figure emerged, rifle raised, face obscured by shadow. The coin spun one last time. Heads or tails? The answer was a voice carried on the wind, soft as silk, sharp as steel. "Hello, boys. Miss me?" Cut to black. The rifle's echo died against the ridge like the last note of a funeral hymn. Sarah stepped from the shadows, older, harder, alive. The cheap Spanish wine she carried in a dented tin cup trembled at the rim, red as the dawn that had nearly killed them both. Elias couldn't move. Gray's saber lowered, forgotten. The black horse snorted once, then stilled, as if even the animal understood history had just rewound itself. Sarah's voice was softer than the wind, sharper than betrayal. "I told you the coin would come back." She raised her left hand. The gold piece, governor's profile worn smooth by 12 years of pocket polish, rested in her palm like a heartbeat paused mid-beat. The same coin Gray had left spinning on a tavern table. The same coin that had bought his pardon and nearly Elias's death. Thunder rolled behind her, but no storm followed. Gray found his words first. "You were supposed to be dead." Sarah's smile was a blade. "Turns out dying's easy. Staying dead is harder." Elias's throat worked, rope burn flaring beneath the memory of a noose. "The fire your ship went down with half the Spanish fleet. I swam. Took me 3 years to crawl out of Havana's gutters. Took me 9 more to learn who paid the match that lit it." She tilted the coin, catching the sun. "Same men who paid the sniper just now. Same men who paid Gray to rescue you." Gray's jaw clenched. "I earned that governorship. With my blood," Sarah said, voice flat. "And Elias's rope. But the coin's spent. Time to flip it again." Elias stepped forward, boots crunching on shale. The wine smell hit him, cheap, sharp, impossibly familiar. He took the cup from her hand without asking. One sip burned all the way down, tasting of salt and gunpowder and 12 years of regret. Sarah watched him drink. "Question is, what do we do with the change?" Behind them, the ridge smoked where the sniper had fallen. Below, the town stirred. Deputies regrouping, townsfolk whispering. The sheriff's body still cooling in the dirt. But up here, time narrowed to 3 people and 1 gold coin. Gray sheathed his saber. "I can give you both pardons. Ships, enough coin to disappear." Sarah's laugh was winter wind. "Or we burn the board. Expose every ledger, every bribe, every body they buried to build their empire." She flipped the coin. It spun between them, catching firelight and memory, before Elias snatched it midair. Heads. Governor's face. He closed his fist around it. "Neither." Sarah raised an eyebrow. Gray tensed. Elias spoke to the horizon. "We keep sailing, but this time we write the rules." He turned to Gray. "Your pardon buys us a fleet. Her ledger buys us allies. And this," he opened his palm, coin gleaming, "this buys us the first round in every port from here to Canton." Gray's grin was slow, wolfish. "Pirate governor and ghost captain. The crown will love that." Sarah's eyes softened, just enough. "Thought you'd never ask." They walked down the ridge together, 3 shadows against a rising sun. Behind them, the town would tell stories. Of a pirate reprieved, a governor redeemed, a woman returned from the dead. But ahead lay darker waters, richer prizes, and a future written in wine and fire. At the base of the slope, the black horse waited, nostrils flaring. Elias swung into the saddle, Sarah behind him, Gray on foot beside. He held out the tin cup. Sarah filled it from a fresh bottle, better vintage this time, but still red as sunrise. They drank. The coin rested against Elias's chest, warm through his shirt. Gray mounted behind them, saber glinting. "Where to, Captain?" Elias looked east, where the sun painted the ocean gold. "Anywhere the wind hasn't learned our names yet." Sarah leaned forward, voice soft against his ear. "And when the wind does?" Elias smiled, tasting wine and salt and second chances. "Then we teach it new ones." The horse surged forward. Behind them, the ridge smoked. Ahead, the horizon opened wide, wild, waiting. And somewhere in Elias's pocket, the coin spun one last time, silent, eternal. Heads, redemption. Tails, revenge. The wind would decide. But not yet. Not today. Today they rode. End screen fades in. A single silhouette against burning water. Coin flashing. Text whispers. Click next to see where the wind takes them, and who pays the price.